What's up, everybody? Welcome to Car Ride Sessions. Doing this on a beautiful Sunday, now afternoon here in Charlotte, North Carolina. It's a hot one. It's a hot one we got here today. But yeah, welcome to Car Ride Sessions. Today I want to talk about stage design. Not necessarily my mindset or my style or a style that I have, but mainly kind of some boxes that I like to check, or maybe even a rating system that I like to look at when it comes to evaluating a stage design. An evaluation in my context, is a process of working in Vectorworks, and then depends, working in a 3D environment, dropping in cameras, looking at different camera shots and going, looks good here, looks good there. Maybe we need to add some things here, add some things there, move some things around. And that's kind of the evaluation process. But I have 5 general buckets that I look at, maybe check boxes, ratings, that I look at when it comes to a stage design. And I've worked on this talk in this sort of arena many times, just in the process of what's my style? What's, even our style at Elevation, but more of what makes a good stage design. That's kind of the root of it, of what makes a stage design good, and you go, oh, I like that, I don't like that, or I like this, or I like that about this. So there's 5 buckets, and I'm gonna unpack each one as much as I can. So the 5 buckets are coverage, adaptability, shape, depth, and looking good without haze. So those are the 5 general buckets, and let's dive into the first one, coverage. There's 2 types of coverage that I kind of look at. I look at hard coverage and soft coverage. So hard coverage is what I'm going to call a light emitting element. So that is anything from a lighting fixture, static or moving, whatever, a LED panel, so like an LED screen or something. Maybe you have some sort of scenic element that has LED tape inside that glows. Or maybe you have or some sort of video strip, like a Epix or a Septron or a Pixel Bar, something of that nature. Physical physical items that are objects that emit light. The second part of that soft coverage are objects or elements that take on light. So I would put projection surfaces in that. Any sort of fabric, any sort of scenic elements that are like a chloroplast or a wood or something like that, some set piece that just takes on light. That's what I would put into the soft coverage category. So what is the amount of coverage that you need is up to you. You might need a bunch of it, or you might not want any sort of negative space. You might want no negative space. You want everything lit. That might be your approach to that, but that's where coverage comes into play. The second thing is adaptability, and I feel like people will use flexible and adaptable interchangeably, and I don't really buy into that. I think adaptable is a much more desirable trait than flexible. Let me unpack that. And I'll give an example after I kind of unpack it. Flexible, I believe. So let me take it a step back. In the course of a worship experience, you might have multiple elements that need to be lit differently. So you have, your 2 big ones is you've got a worship, so you've got music, and then you have a talking head. You've got the sermon, right? So worship is going to be treated very differently than a talking head. A flexible lighting design will look really great maybe for worship, or really great for a talking head, but doesn't quite look as good as it could for the other. You know, it's like really great for talking head, not so good for music. Really great for music, not so good for talking head. In the life cycle of a stage design, you might have a concert, a youth event, a wedding, a funeral. You know, you might have a number of different events that happen in the same space that need to be able to flex, but really adapt to what that event is. So an adaptable design is something that can grow, so you can add fixtures to it really easily. It can also shrink. You can take fixtures away. You might even be in a position where you need to actually swap out your entire rig. But also it looks really great for talking head. Looks really great for music. You can do a DJ set and pop off and make it feel real, like, real beamy and lights going everywhere. You can also make it feel like a concert. It's like very specific programming, but it's all of it's there. You know, that coupled with great coverage and adaptability, that's something that is super desirable when you're looking at doing a stage design. The third thing is shape. So when I say shape, I mean shape. Squares, rectangles, circles, triangles. Those are, I'm talking about a shape. And when you're looking at your stage in its entirety, do I want a circle shape? Do I want angular, or a triangular? But even, breaking it down a little bit further and saying, okay, if I want a square or a rectangle, I want linear, I want symmetrical, I want boxy, I want something that, covers a lot of area. And then let's say if you want like a circle, you're talking about still probably symmetrical, but like there's no hard edges, there's softer, there's some roundness to it. Or a triangle, you want angular, maybe you want asymmetric. Those are all kinds of things that if you have a specific shape in mind, you're like, I want this, I want linear. Well, you're probably going to end up with boxes, and that's where you can kind of gives you a gauge as to your design choices of, well, if I cut this here, then it kind of doesn't make a sharp corner, and I want it to be square or rectangle, so I need to, maybe you need to add a fixture there or move a fixture around. But that can help really drive your design choices. The fourth thing is depth. And this is something that everybody wants. I gotta have more depth, it's too flat, There's a few things that contribute to a flat stage. One is front light. If you have front light coming in at a pretty shallow angle, let's say you've got low ceilings, and your front light is basically bleeding onto your upstage. You might have scenic, you might have projection, you might just have a wall there. If that is catching the same brightness or lit in the same brightness and same color as your downstage vocalist, preacher, whatever, it's going to start to look, it is going to look flat, not only visually live in the room, but also on camera. And you want to avoid that. And you might not be in a position like, oh, we can't raise the ceilings. Well, there's a few things you can do is, instead of having white upstage, lean dark, but also light your upstage with uplight or downlight or something different to be able to break up and separate your downstage from your upstage. So trying to, ensuring that at the very least, not everything is the same color, because you might not be able to really balance out brightness as much, because if you're already bright upstage, but you need that light because it's your key light, you kind of have to battle brightness with really with color. So that can help break that up a little bit. But also layers. Layers are your best friend. So if you have like an upstage black, light that, and then put something in front of it. You may only have maybe 12 inches to work with. Leverage that as best as you can. Lighting the upstage, curtain is one way, and then maybe you just go down to the hardware store and get a big piece of chloroplast and do something with that, light that as well. Then you can get some two-tone color and just intensities going on. The other thing is managing size. Anything that is small seems far away. Anything that is big or feels up close, right? Pretty simple. It's, the same kind of concept. You've got this, and you can do a little bit of forced perspective by having a small object be a little bit taller. Just like I did this a lot when I was in school, is I would draw two squares, and then you draw just a couple of key lines, and now you've got a cube, right? It's the same sort of concept. Is anything that is small, I'm going to try and get upstage physically, set it back, but also make it, be the smallest thing, but also try to raise it up a little bit so that it creates this illusion that it's farther back than what it really is. And that can kind of help create this illusion of depth, but also lighting, layers, this forced perspective, and just ensuring that not every part of your stage is lit evenly in the same way. All of those can really help with creating depth on your stage, even if you have a super shallow stage. And the last thing, I feel like if you manage the first four, really the first two, looking good without haze is going to kind of take care of itself. If you've got great coverage, you've got adaptability, so you can add things. You've sold out to a shape, so and you're completing that shape, and you've managed your depth. Looking good without haze is likely going to take care of itself, but it is something that you need to be aware of when designing everything. Is like, well, if I don't have haze, I've got to rely on lighting scenic elements. I've got to rely on video elements. I've got to rely on actually seeing the source. So it might mean I've got to have, I may need to have an array of static fixtures. I've got 155s, so you can use M stripes, jolts, any sort of, static fixture. I might need to point those straight out at the crowd and rely on color chases, crowd sweeps, hits. That's going to give me that visual energy without the energy and the beams that haze contributes to the overall look. So yeah, well, let's just recap real quick. The 5 buckets are coverage, adaptability, I forgot the third one, shape, coverage, adaptability, shape, depth, and looking good without haze. So hopefully this helps, and these are, and when I say like they're kind of a rating system, so I'm not looking at it going, oh, yep, we've got coverage, check. I'm like, maybe on a scale of 1 to 10, coverage is like, a 7 or an 8, and then maybe selling out to a shape is like a 4. It just depends on what what's possible in your room, what you have available to you. It can just that can determine a bunch of different factors. But anyway, these are all guidelines, no hard and fast rules. I hope this helps somebody out in this next season of ministry, or maybe you got some designs coming up. And yeah, hope this helps. Bye, everybody.